Hi, I'm Susanna Bowling, and this is live from the Hotel Edison. Times Square Chronicles presents. Last weekend, I was in the Hamptons, and I started talking to this really wonderful person, and we had a lot in common, and there were things. And she gave me her card, and I went and looked at her website. She is one of the most prolific artists I have ever seen that works in mosaic and glass and tile. Her name is Allison Eden, and she is with us today. Allison, I am so impressed by your work. You bring back another time frame, another period. I think that I am in the Italian Renaissance when I see your work. Can you tell me how you got into doing what you're doing and where your mindset goes, because it's eclectic?
It's very, very eclectic. Well, I started in 1993. I was living in the dorm at Fashion Institute of Technology. I was a fashion design student, and I was walking in Tribeca, and I saw a store that carried glass. This was not, anything that I had ever known. I walked in, I fell in love with the colors and the textures, and people were cutting it. It was making like beautiful noises, and so I bought some glass. I brought it to my dorm, and I just started to make mosaics. I broke it with a hammer, and I I started my business in my dorm room, basically, and I just fell so in love that I feel like the minute I started cutting glass was the last day I ever designed another outfit. It was really like something I felt so passionately about, and I had never seen anything like this before, and I'd always drawn and painted and made clothing, and I thought, this would be so beautiful for walls, and what a canvas I could have if I could get people to buy the walls or floors. And then I could just keep going and making things. So I took out an ad in the Yellow Pages. Mind you, I was almost graduating, and my parents were like, "What do you mean you're not going into fashion design? You're going to be a mosaic artist now." Like at first it didn't, that wasn't like the easiest thing to tell your parents after they've, expected you to, graduate and move on to a job. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take an ad out in the Yellow Pages, and I decided to take out many ads. I didn't know what I was, and I didn't even know if these were mosaics. I had no idea.
So wait, you had no schooling in this? You had never seen the Italian Renaissance mosaics or the ones in like the biblical times?
Yes, I had seen them. I loved them, but it was not my career path. Right. So I started I was an accountant. I was, an architect, a contractor, a designer. I mean, I took out the cutest ads where before Google, it was the Yellow Pages. So I put down that I was a contractor.
Wait, you didn't do the Village Voice? I would have gone to the Village Voice.
Well, I just thought, Yellow Pages, that's so global. And it was like a big deal. It was like the Google then. So I got a call from Burger King on 46th Street, and they said, "Hi, we're looking to do a mosaic, a Brazilian wave in a new Burger King opening up on 46th and 8th Avenue. And do you do it? We've looked for somebody in the tri-state area to do this work, and we can't find anybody." I was like, "Well, you've come to the right place." This is what I do. I had no idea. So I rented a car. I drove to Home Depot. I bought a video on how to tile a floor. And I showed up. I had gone to Staples, and I bought my invoice book. And I stood there with the owner of Burger King, and I wrote under my invoices, 001. And he didn't even notice, and he gave me the job, and I did the job, and it was so beautiful. I mean, it was, I couldn't even finish watching the video because I thought it was so boring to watch the video on how to tile a floor. So I kind of was winging it the whole time. And I became a GC because I had to, it's pretty heavy duty doing a commercial floor.
Wait, GC, general contractor.
General contractor. So I was hiring people and I had to work at night. And so, it was in the middle of winter and there was only wood on the walls. It was snowing inside, and like a homeless guy would walk by, like, you need a job, come, I need you to lay some cement. Like, this is how my job worked, and it worked. And that was like one of my very first projects I ever did.
Oh my God, I've seen that. That was your first?
Yeah, I had one other, but it's around the same time, which is every job was a really funny story, and they were so funny because I was in the unknown, trying to create. I wasn't even sure what I was creating, but I was creating a business from the start and not really knowing what I was doing.
It sounds to me like you had a past life in doing this because you knew what you were doing without having to study, without having to do anything. Did you ever feel like that?
Well, I think I learned by failure, not by success, for sure. Around the same time, I met a guy in the insurance business, and he said, I'm doing a show at the Javits Center. Why don't you bring one of your mosaic tables, and you could stand next to your table and hustle your table in my insurance booth. So I made a beautiful table, and I stood there, and I got people so excited that there was like hordes of people looking at my mosaics. Well, by the end of the day, the guy told me, get your table and get out of here because nobody's looking at my insurance. They're looking at only your tables, and you're making a scene in here, like with not a scene, but people are crowding in to see your mosaics and no one's looking at my insurance. Well, that day I got 50 tables for the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. So right before I had to leave with my little table. And I didn't have any place to make this. So I rented a 10 by 10 room in a building on 320 West 37th Street. It was literally a 10 by 10 room, no heat, and 50 tables for New Jersey Performing Arts Center. That was a lot of tables. So I waited until the super left, and then I put all the tables in the stairwell, and I'd get people to help me. I would draw on the tables, and I would go from floor to floor all night long. And then when it was like, 4 a.m., everybody would move their tables into my little 10 by 10 room, and I'd clean up, and then we'd start the next day and do it again. Well, I was thrown out of there too. But I finished my tables.
But better to be thrown out for that reason than others.
Oh, I know. Well, you know what? I was doing something I absolutely loved and believed in, and somebody was giving me a chance in business, and I couldn't fail, and I couldn't make 50 tables in a 10 by 10 room. So I figured, well, no one's using the stairwell at night, so why can't I? So
let me guess, fire laws.
I guess so. Well, back in those days, I wasn't really worried about fire laws, and I had no idea. All I knew is that I had 002 invoice that I had to complete.
So wait, did you finish the tables before they kicked you out?
Yes, they let me finish them, and I was basically at the end because I was working so fast. So, the landlord was actually very nice about it. He said, I understand, but you don't need a 10 by 10. You need a much larger space, and you can't do what you're doing. So I moved into a bigger space, not in his building, and then from there I started, it got a little bit easier, and I realized how to do the third project, and I learned through really, I never had made a table, I had never done a floor, and I just learned by reading and watching videos and really teaching myself. It was really, I was self-taught with everything.
I am so excited for people to hear this because you are such a success story of somebody that was passionate about something, but didn't let learning or anything stand in their way of getting to their passion. Can you tell us all of the places that you have done things for in Times Square?
Oh gosh. ESPN Zone, Burger King. I've done subways before. Little bits in the subways. I feel like I've been in Times Square doing work since the beginning of my career. And there was a place called Mama Goo's that was near here. Let's see. Fifth Avenue in like the 40s, which is kind of near Asbury, Piaget, Henry Bendel's. The list goes on and on.
We're going to talk a little bit. I wasn't going to bring it in this early, but we're already here, so let's go there. Serendipities. It's opening up in Times Square. I'm so excited to be one of the first people to know this and to talk about it.
Oh, I'm so excited also. So Serendipity is a New York City iconic restaurant. It's been open 70 years, and this is their second location. And I was hired by the architect, Wid Chapman, and the team at Serendipity to help create the fabulous vision that they had for this restaurant. It is so beautiful, so wild and crazy and happy. This is just what New York City needs right now. I mean, this place is... If you don't smile in Serendipity, I don't know, like, when you're going to smile. I mean, they are so known for their frozen hot chocolates and their delicious truffle burgers. And my favorite is the Thai salad. And it's...
You went healthy.
Right. Well, I went healthy, but I always get a frozen hot chocolate also.
I like the frozen mochaccino.
I think everything is so good. And the food is so... It's just tasty and delicious and yummy. And I've been going to Serendipity ever since I was a kid. So this iconic restaurant is not just a restaurant opening. To me and to most people who have lived in New York City for most of their lives, this is a really important and exciting new place for them to be. And to be in Times Square, it's like being in the Las Vegas of New York City.
Drew, did you do a mosaic of the frozen hot chocolate?
I did. I did, on the floor.
I was afraid to ask that, but it's like, oh my God, that just makes so much sense.
Yes, it's covered up right now, so I don't have any good photos, but it's beautiful. I was so honored that a New York establishment wanted to hire a New York City artist. And every time that happens,
And a female.
Oh, and a female as well. But I just feel like, being a New York City artist, it's such an honor when these iconic city establishments want you to be a part of it. And it makes me very happy. And I feel like, I'm home. I have children. I will be so happy to take them there and show my family. And most of our things ship all over the world, so I never get to see a lot of it. But when they are in New York City, to me, I get to visit my babies.
I also want to talk about, you also did these glass sculptures in Mohegan Sun that I think are the most, I want them. I want to have a home that has one with water coming down it.
Mohegan Sun was one of my first casinos, and I started at Mohegan Sun before there was a building. So I had to drive up with crates of glass, and I would start mosaicing, and they couldn't find enough people to do the work. So they would say, hey kid, you want to do this restaurant? Yeah. I mean, do this one. I did almost everything at Mohegan Sun. That is, well, all the mosaics are all mine. And it's so expansive. And it was a labor of love for me to be there. And I I used to feel like Mohegan Sun was my home because I was basically living there and going to Starbucks in the morning and being like, hey, you need a job? I was hiring people from the gas station that would come. I mean, and it was like 20 degrees below zero. And I was pulling glass like a mile through the mud just to get it inside. There were no walls when I was working, and they probably couldn't nobody would be crazy enough to do it but me. So that's probably why all of Mohegan Sun is our stuff.
So you hire people that need jobs. Why hasn't the city gotten to you and said, why don't you help with the homeless and now the migrant problem? Because you're actually giving to humanity by this.
Well, I do believe so. I create a lost art, and I teach people my art. And I hope that this will live on, because not everybody wants to work at Amazon, or, trade schools are a thing of the past. And I think it's very important to teach young people to do stuff with their hands. And I was not so smart in school when it came to grades. And I just remember my parents always saying, you are so smart, you are a genius. And I'd look at my report cards and I was like C minus, C minus, C minus. But it was always the positive reinforcements and the love that my parents gave me to think, Allison, you're really smart. It doesn't matter the grades. You're smart and you're driven. And I really felt that from a young age, that when you're given like love and support, and no matter how you do in school, I think that you could do anything. You could rule the world if you want. I always thought that. And I think with my artwork, it is a lost art. Everything made in China these days. There's not a lot of handiwork. You could go to Target and buy a lace, for nothing. But then you could go to, a sewing factory somewhere in the garment center, and they're creating lace by hand. They might look alike, but they're not. And so that's how I feel about my tile. We handcraft every single piece. We cut it, we lay it. It's a labor of love, a lost art, and something that really needs to continue. And so I do teach people, and I do take high school students from underprivileged neighborhoods, and I teach them my craft. And I have I have people that have stayed or come back to say, Allison, you really taught me how to work. And because we're very unconventional, but I do believe a good work ethic was always very, very important. So I've always tried to teach interns that come from, it's called City As High School in New York City. These are kids that don't do well in school and they need a trade. So they come and I teach them my work.
I love this. I want to ask you more questions, but I think I want to stop here because I want people to really hear this message. I think it's so positive, and I wish our world were going more in this direction. But I love what you do. And do tell people you have a studio in Brooklyn. Tell them where it is.
So we are in Bushwick, 164 Cook Street. We have a social media platform also, our website, which is AllisonEden.com. We're on Instagram. I'm not so techie, but I do my own Instagram, and I love that. So
I'm not good at it at all.
That's the only thing I know how to do is Instagram. So, and that's Allison Eden Studios. But
I will be following you.
Oh, thank you.
We all need to absorb this message. You can do anything if you have a passion or a mind to learn it. And we need to think more in the positive of this world. I would love to thank Magda Katz for always filming and making us look good and making us sound good. I'd like to thank Chuck Armstrong because if you've noticed, we have lights and the show is looking better. I'd like to thank Romel Gopez and the Hotel Edison. I'm Susanna Bowling, and this is Live from the Hotel Edison, Times Square Chronicles presents. Thank you.